All right, so you want to know about RTX Corporation stock, ticker symbol RTX. Is it a good investment or not? Well, we've got piles of reports and analyses, even earnings call transcripts, all ready to break down for you.
And what we're seeing is, it's pretty interesting. RTX is this huge player in aerospace and defense. Used to be Raytheon Technologies.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're the ones behind Pratt& Whitney aircraft engines, Collins aerospace components,
Wow.
and even Raytheon missiles.
Okay. So, I mean, not exactly your everyday company, right?
Right.
And these sources are showing some exciting stuff, like the recent performance in the fourth quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
Totally crushed earnings expectations.
Yeah.
With growth across all their business segments.
And this growth, it's especially interesting when you think about what's going on around the world.
Yeah.
Defense spending is going up, especially in the Indo-Pacific region.
Right.
And that means big potential opportunities for RTX. We're talking like seriously lucrative contracts opening up as countries try to beef up their defenses.
Okay, so that sounds promising, but the reports also talk about this GTF engine program, which seems kind of like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's a major part of their business, but on the other, they're dealing with some challenges, like the cost of powder metal,
Right.
which is hitting their profitability.
And it's important to get why this is a big deal. Powder metal is a key part of these engines, but the rising costs are cutting into RTX's margins. But they are looking into some new solutions. One report mentioned they're thinking about other materials and working on making their manufacturing process better.
So they're not just, taking the hit.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, how well will these solutions work, and how long until they actually see a difference, in their bottom line?
Yeah.
It's definitely something you need to think about as a potential investor.
Absolutely. And on top of that, we need to talk about supply chain risks.
Yeah.
RTX relies on this complex global network of suppliers, and that can be a problem. We live in a world where supply chains are always being disrupted. And any little hiccup could affect RTX's production and profits.
Like a domino effect, right?
Exactly.
Any delay or disruption in one part can mess up the whole system. And then there's the issue of production rates from companies like Boeing and Airbus. Big customers for RTX.
Yeah.
If their production slows down, that could directly hit RTX's sales.
Right. And actually, one of the sources pointed out that RTX is working to handle these risks. They're trying to diversify their suppliers, build stronger relationships with key partners. They're even investing in technology to anticipate and respond to potential disruptions faster.
It sounds like they're taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it's still a risk to remember. Okay, now for the elephant in the room, the legal battles.
Right. We can't ignore those. The reports go into these serious allegations, bribery and contract fraud. Now, it's important to remember these are just allegations right now. RTX says they're innocent. But these legal problems are creating uncertainty and could hurt the company's reputation and financial health.
And that uncertainty is something you, as a possible investor, have to consider.
Definitely.
So we've got this mix of, positive momentum, but also some serious challenges.
Yeah.
What are the experts saying about all this?
Well, the analysts are actually pretty divided. Some are what they call bullish on RTX.
Bullish.
Meaning they think the stock price will go up.
Got it.
They think the potential for growth, especially in defense, outweighs the risks.
Makes sense.
But others are more bearish.
Bearish.
Yeah, more cautious, think the stock price might drop. They're focused on those potential problems we talked about.
Okay.
Exactly. And when you look at the price targets these analysts have set, it really shows how different their opinions are. Some think RTX will go as high as $140 a share, while others think it'll be closer to $115.
Wow, that's a big difference. So how do we make sense of all of this? Anything in the reports to help us cut through all the noise?
Yeah.
And figure out what RTX is actually worth?
Well, one source gives what's called a fair value estimate. Basically, this calculation takes into account all sorts of things like the company's earnings, assets, future growth, to try and figure out the real value of the stock.
And for RTX, that fair value estimate is?
$123.23.
Okay.
And this is where it gets interesting. That fair value estimate is actually lower than the current share price.
Wait, hold on. So that means...
It suggests the stock might be a little overvalued right now.
Okay, so you're saying the market might be a little too optimistic about RTX at the moment, but isn't fair value just one piece of the puzzle?
Exactly. It's not a perfect way to predict what the stock will do in the future, but it's a good piece of information to consider,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to decide if a stock is a good investment for you.
So what does this all mean for you as a listener? We've given you a ton of information, but where do you even start with processing all of this?
Well, it's about understanding that RTX has this huge potential, especially with all the growth in commercial aerospace and defense spending. But it's not without risk.
Right.
Those challenges with the GTF engine program and the legal issues,
Yeah.
those are things you need to think about seriously.
It's about, like, weighing those potential rewards
Mhm.
against the potential risks, right?
Exactly.
And as an investor, that's the big question. Is RTX the kind of company you want to put your money behind?
Exactly.
It feels like we're at like a crossroads with RTX.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you've got this exciting potential for growth, but also these big risks to think about. It's a tough one.
And that's exactly why we do these deep dives.
Right.
We want to give you the info you need so you can make good decisions.
Yeah.
We looked at how they've done lately, what the future might hold, dug into those GTF engine program issues, and we definitely didn't shy away from those legal problems.
And what really stuck out to me is how RTX is trying to tackle these problems head on. You know, they're not just sitting around hoping for the best.
Right.
They're exploring different materials for the GTF engines, trying to make their supply chain stronger. And they're even putting a lot of money into, like, infrastructure and automation to be more efficient.
Those are all good signs, but they don't get rid of the risks completely.
True.
It's about understanding the whole picture.
Right.
Like you said before, the 360-degree view. And that means looking at their strengths and weaknesses.
Right. We talked about that potential growth in defense spending,
Yeah.
which is a big plus for RTX. And they've got this huge backlog of orders, which means they've got some revenue coming in for sure in the future. But then you've got those uncertainties hanging around with the GTF program and the legal stuff.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, investing always has risks. There's never a guaranteed return. But if you think carefully about all of these things, the good and the bad,
Yeah.
you can start to figure out if RTX is the right investment for you.
So if you were in our listeners' shoes, what would you do next? Where would you go from here?
I'd tell them to dig even deeper. We've given a good foundation,
Right.
but there's always more to learn. I'd suggest looking at those sources we mentioned, check out their financial statements, read those analyst reports, maybe even listen to their earnings calls.
Get into the details.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And don't just take our word for it.
Right.
Come to your own conclusions based on your research and your own risk tolerance.
Exactly. Investing is personal.
Yeah.
What might be a great investment for one person might not be right for someone else.
Really.
It all depends on your own financial goals, how much risk you're comfortable with, and your overall investment strategy.
And hey, if you find these deep dives helpful,
Yeah.
we've got tons of episodes on all sorts of topics.
We're all about making these complicated things easier to understand
Yeah.
and giving you the knowledge to make smart choices about the world around you.
So hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when we release new stuff.
We love sharing what we know and helping you figure out the complicated world of investing, technology, and the global economy. We believe that knowledge is power, and we want to help you become, like, savvy, engaged people in the world.